All right, guys, welcome to Flavo Rihanna's MMA show. I'm your host, Flavo Rihanna, and man, oh man, guys, we had UFC 267 yesterday night, and actually yesterday morning. All right, for those that are in the United States, and the fight was held at Abu Dhabi. All right, from top to bottom, very good card. All right, there was a couple of snoozers, in my opinion, but we had good cards in the prelims. We had the official fight of Andre Petroski fighting on the UFC card. He looked good against Hui or I may be butchering his name. That was a good fight. We also had Lerone Murphy, who we haven't seen fight in quite some time. That was a good fight when he fought Maka Amirkhani. We had Amanda Hebus versus Verna Jandiroba, who Verna Jandiroba actually walked out to Island Boy. Didn't really expect that to happen. I know there's been a big buzz about that type of song with the MMA community. Don't really get the whole gist behind it, but it was kind of cool to see her, jam out to Island Boy as she was making her way towards the octagon. But guys, we had a very good main card, all right? That was main evented by Yan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira, and that was for the light heavyweight title. Co-main event was maybe an all-time classic in my opinion. For the interim, the interim bantamweight title between Petr Yan versus Cory Sandhagen, Islam Makhachev versus Dan Hooker. A lot of people feel that Islam Makhachev might be the best 155er, and Dan Hooker may be one of the craziest people in the world. Alexander Volkov versus Marcin Tybura. The return of Hamza Chimaev versus Li Jingliang, and then we had Magomed Ankalaev versus Volkan Ozdemir. But we'll start for the main event. And the main event, Yan Blachowicz versus Glover Teixeira. Now, Yan Blachowicz won the belt on Fight Island, Yas Island in Abu Dhabi last year when the belt was vacated, when Jon Jones relinquished the belt, when he was making his way and he wanted to leave the light heavyweight division to go to heavyweight, okay? Didn't want to defend the belt. So last year, around September, UFC President Dana White wanted a match, made the match between Yan Blachowicz versus Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes, his previous fight before that vacant title fight was against Jon Jones, where he took Jon Jones to the limit, and it was a very close fight. Many people felt that Dominic Reyes won. Jon Jones ended up coming out as the victor. And Yan Blachowicz's previous fight before that vacant title fight was against Corey Anderson, which he had knocked out, I believe, in the first round in New Mexico, right in front of Jon Jones, where he was sitting front row for that UFC fight night. So that allowed both these two fighters to get into the octagon, all right? And many people came into that assumption that Dominic Reyes was going to be able to beat Yan Blachowicz. But within the second round, Yan Blachowicz was able to capitalize, hurt Dominic Reyes, dropped him, and was able to capture the UFC championship. Now, many people would have never imagined Yan Blachowicz to become champion, because back in 2017, he was fighting for his job. All right, at one point there was talks about him possibly being cut, but he managed to stick around. He built up a couple wins, beat up Corey Anderson, beat up Luke Rockhold. All right, and he was beat up Dominic Reyes, and look where he's at right now. He was main eventing a pay-per-view, the second time in a row that he's appeared in. He main evented in that pay-per-view of UFC 259, Israel Adesanya versus Yan Blachowicz. Okay, when Israel Adesanya tried to move up from middleweight to lightweight to try to be a double champ, and now once again he's main eventing for UFC 267, trying to defend his belt against Glover Teixeira. Now Glover Teixeira, he's had his title shot in the past, but that was about 5 or 6 years ago against Jon Jones, who was a scary killer that he is today. With the great fight IQ that he has, he was able to go to the judges' scorecard and was able to come out as the winner against Glover Teixeira. And Glover Teixeira at that time, won five fights in a row, and bam, he was already going into a title shot. against John Jones. Wasn't successful, but then it took him years to get back to the position that he was at right now, okay? At one point, the UFC wanted to just have Teixeira as kind of like a gatekeeper to see if young light heavyweight prospects are able to, if they're able to beat him, then they'll be able to contend with the elite light heavyweights. But, you know, he racked up a couple of victories, beat up on Thiago Santos, beat up on Anthony Smith. Beat up on Anthony Smith, Thiago Santos, and that was actually the number one contender fight. He had to sit around. He had to wait to see Adesanya get the title shot over Teixeira, okay? And, you know, didn't make any complaints whatsoever. He was next in line, and he was able to accept that. Blachowicz ends up defending the belt, ends up defeating Adesanya, taking the zero loss record on Adesanya's record and giving him a 1-loss record. And now here we are. Blachowicz comes into the octagon, trying to make his second title defense against Glover Teixeira. Now going into this fight, I favored Yan Blachowicz. I favored Yan Blachowicz for the reason being because of the fact that he has that power within his right hand where if he touches you, he can drop you, okay? Those type of, you know, fighters are very scary in the aspect is like they don't need to get a clean shot off of you, but if he gets a clean shot off of you, that's it. The lights are out and your back's against you're laying flat against the wall on the floor, staring at the lights on the ceiling. But Glover Teixeira was able to utilize his boxing in that first round, was able to get Yan Blachowicz down onto the floor, into takedown, all right, going into full guard. And, you know, it was very key, very early into the first round, where he was able to stop Yan from getting into a rhythm. All right, the kickboxer that Yan is, he likes to fight from the outside, pick you apart, and then, try to land that right hand on the chin to lay you out. But Teixeira knew what that game plan was. He was able to go for the double leg takedown, put Yan Blachowicz flat onto the floor, all right, get into full guard, top mount, okay, and was able just to muscle and grind out that round, okay. It was a 10-9 round for Glover Teixeira, all right, and Blachowicz got up. He was like, all right, you got me on this round, I'm going to get you for the next round, okay. And it seemed like going into round 2, Blachowicz was able to find somewhat of a rhythm, okay. He was able to find somewhat of a rhythm, and then Teixeira was able to sneak past the left hook of Yan, was able to throw his right hook, and was able to stagger Yan, and it hurt him. All right, then Teixeira was able to take Yan down, which at that point I thought Teixeira was going to just utilize his boxing because it was already looking great in the exchange between Yan Blachowicz, but he was able to take down Yan and then go into his bread and butter, which is ground and pound. And then at that very moment, you know, when Yan had his stomach flat onto the floor, Glover Teixeira found the opportunity, put his arm around the neck, and then went in for the rear naked chokehold. And then instantaneously, Yan had tapped out, and now we have a new light heavyweight champion, Glover Teixeira. Daytonburg, Connecticut has their champion now, and it's amazing because going into this weekend, Glover Teixeira just turned 42 years old, okay? 2 days after his 42nd birthday, he became the newest light heavyweight champion in the UFC's history. I believe he's the 13th light heavyweight champion in the history's division. Now that's phenomenal stuff, and that's great. I never would have expected Glover Teixeira to beat Yan Blachowicz just because we've seen Yan go into a streak where I'm like, wow, this guy may be able to hold on to the title. You know, if he's able to get past Glover and get past Yuri, he might be able to get past the title. Hold on to the title for a very long, lengthy amount of time. Now, Yuri Prochazka did weigh in as the backup, okay, which was smart. All right, got his show money. I don't know if he got his win money, but he definitely got his show money for weighing in. Perfect. Glover gets on the microphone, says, "Hey, Yuri, come down over here. You're next. I'm ready to fight you." Now, the one thing that really had bothered me about that was that Glover Teixeira did say that he wants to fight Yuri Prochazka in May. Now, I was not a big fan of the fact that he wants to fight Prochazka in May because now you're going to make the man wait 7 months. The guy hasn't fought since May, I believe it was like May 4th or May 1st when he beat Dominic Reyes. That means Yuri Prochazka is going to have to wait a full year. Now, if I'm Yuri Prochazka, I'm in a tough pickle because of the fact that, one, if you're gonna wait it out for a full year, you better make sure you sign that bout agreement as soon as it's offered to you. Okay, make sure you sign that bout agreement because of the fact that you have Alexander Rakic in the background waiting for to fight for the title. Okay, he wants to fight for the title. He's most likely gonna end up taking a fight real soon. Okay, I believe personally, Rakic is most likely going to have to fight Magomed Ankalaev. If he's able to beat Magomed Ankalaev, which Magomed Ankalaev did beat Volkan Ozdemir by unanimous decision, okay? If Rakic is able to beat Magomed Ankalaev, I think that surpasses Yuri Prochazka for next in line for a title shot. And since, Rakic is trying to stay active, bam, you get that title shot over Yuri. Now Yuri has to wait even longer, and now he might have to take a fight that he should have probably has just taken just to stay, ready. But, what's it called? I highly doubt the UFC allows Glover Teixeira to sit around for 7 months to defend his belt. I think that's a little bit insane right there. I personally do see them fighting, give or take, March of 2022. Okay, March of 2022, just because we already have set for January 2022. There's talks of February 2022 being Israel Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker. There's nothing for March. That's something of a possibility that they can use at this very moment. Okay, now what's next for Yan Blachowicz? Well, unfortunately, Yan Blachowicz is not going to get the next title shot. He's going to have to fight maybe 1 or 2 more fights. All right, the fight that makes the most sense, in my opinion, for Yan Blachowicz has to be Alexander Rakic, just because he wants to get there and fight. Okay. Yan has said something about him wanting to fight in March, but if Yuri is able to sign that bout agreement, like I just said a few minutes ago, if Yuri signs that bout agreement, Yan has to go immediately and ask to fight Alexander Rakic and put him on that same card. Hopefully they get it in March, put him on that same card. That way, if one fighter is able to drop out just because of they can't make weight, they have COVID, or they have any type of health issues, or they just have to pull out of the fight, Yan can go back into the title mix, all right, and fill in for Yuri Prochazka or Glover Teixeira, okay? And if it's Glover Teixeira that needs to be filled in, then if Yan Blachowicz needs to fill in for Glover Teixeira, then they can make an interim title belt, all right? Because it just seems like the UFC has no issues with making interim title belts, a la the UFC heavyweight champion when they made Derek Lewis versus Cyril Gane. So that's always a possibility. Now going to the co-main event, this guy's may have been one of the bitter classics, one of the best bantamweight fights that I have seen. All right, between Cory Sandhagen and Petr Yan. Now, Petr Yan was supposed to fight Aljamain Sterling. All right, Aljamain Sterling had to pull out of his fight because he wasn't medically cleared by doctors to fight. He had the neck surgery, so he said that he should be good to go by the beginning of the year. Okay, so that's good news right there. So they made the interim title fight just because of the fact they don't know how much longer that neck is going to be able to hold up. And if, knock on wood, all right, that Aljo has to retire, then they could just unify the belt and be like, here, whoever wins the interim title belt is now the official bantamweight champion. Okay, but neck injuries are kind of tricky, all right, especially what's called in mixed martial arts. Anything can really happen. But going back to the co-main event, we have Petr Yan versus Cory Sandhagen. Petr Yan is a killer. He's a savage. He's one of the best bantamweight fighters of the world, and he's fighting Cory Sandhagen, who just recently lost, all right, technically recently lost to TJ Dillashaw, okay? Cory Sandhagen wasn't the first choice. He wasn't the second choice, all right? He, I believe, was the third choice, all right? Because I remember hearing that they asked TJ, he couldn't make it because he had like a torn PCL or like a ruptured ACL or something along that lines, all right? Rob Font couldn't take the fight because when they had asked for him to take the fight, it was very unfortunate that he had COVID around that time, so he needed to wait around. That's why they made Rob Font versus Jose Aldo. Now they were just stuck with Cory Sandhagen, and he stayed ready from what he had said. He stayed ready. He was active. He had a full fight camp from what he had said, and it just looked like as if he was fully ready because that was a 5-round classic between two of the best mixed martial artists at 135, and it was a tit-for-tat fight, one of the most technical fights that I have seen. And round 1 went to Cory Sandhagen. Cory Sandhagen was just touching up, piecing up Petr Yan in a very tactical way. All right, but round 2, round 3, round 4, round 5, Petr Yan was just getting better, stronger, and was just attacking the body, which is something that he is very notoriously known to do. Okay, he jabs at the body, he uppercuts the body, he throws body kicks, all these type of stuffs. And Cory Sandhagen, I mean, he absorbed a lot of punishment. I mean, it looked a lot worse than what it was just because of the complexion of his skin. Sanhagen's very pale, so any type of real damage that Petr Yan was just doing, it just looked 10 times worse just because his whole body was just red. But, I mean, he was still standing and he was able to manage. The only time that Sanhagen was in any type of danger was in the 3rd round when Petr Yan ended up knocking down Sanhagen, and Yan was just going on full savage mode where he was grounding and pounding and he was mauling at Cory Sandhagen. Now, Cory Sandhagen was wise. He was able to, roll around to his right, was able to manage, was able to defend himself, and then properly get up without taking a huge amount of damage where he was going to be staggered for the fight. But Yan utilizing the body punches, the body kicks, all right, attacking of the legs, cutting off the octagon, keeping pace, applying pressure, making sure that Sanhagen's back is always against the cage, and Sanhagen was never able to get into rhythm. Sanhagen multiple times did try the flying knee, the same flying knee that he ended up using on Frankie Edgar, but Petr Yan was ready for that and was always had his hands up, guarding in case the knee ever tried to land. I believe it was maybe like one knee that came very close to landing, but Petr Yan throughout the whole fight never got really hurt, never got wobbled, and Cory Sandhagen threw a lot of punches and had a large amount of volume in his arsenal, but it just wasn't enough against the guy who may simply be the best bantamweight in the world, which is Petr Yan. Now, what's next for Petr Yan is just simple. He's fighting Aljamain Sterling. That's what Dana White had said in the post-fight press conference, and that's what's going to end up happening. Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling are going to fight to unify the titles, and whoever wins is going to walk out the bantamweight champion of the world. Okay, now for Cory Sandhagen, well, he did UFC a favor, and I certainly do believe that he's most likely going to have to fight the winner of Rob Font versus Jose Aldo. Especially if Jose Aldo does win, I can definitely do see Sandhagen fighting Aldo, because that's a fight that Sanhagen has been wanting to have for quite some time, and fighting the legend that is Jose Aldo. I mean, how can you pass that up? That is a fight that all fight fans would want to see, and it would be a very high technical martial art fight that we'll be able to see between two high level martial artists, which is Cory Sandhagen and Jose Aldo. Now, third fight from the top, we had Islam Makhachev versus Dan Hooker. Now, Islam Makhachev may be one of the best, grapplers in all MMA, and his plan was very simple. He came into this fight knowing that all he needed to do something great to impress Dana White, and he did what was very expected. As soon as Dan Hooker ended up throwing a right hook, he immediately attacked Dan Hooker, just threw him down to the floor, and applied his grappling. The great sambo wrestling that he has in his background, we ended up seeing Islam Makhachev dominate on the floor, was able to get into top mount, and then went for the Kimura lock. And then within a few seconds, Dan Hooker ended up tapping out. Now, it was very great to see Islam Makhachev do that. He called for a title shot. He wants a title shot. If not, he wants somebody inside the top 5. Problem is, not too many people are going to want to fight Islam Makhachev. Reason being is that he's just too damn good, and people have been avoiding him even before he was ranked. Now you're going to put him inside the top 5. The only way people are going to start calling him out is people that are behind him in the ranking, that for some reason they'll take the fight just because if they can find some clear miracle within them to beat Islam Makhachev, then that's going to accelerate them up in the rankings and get them brownie points with Dana White. Outside of that, I just don't see it happening. Me, personally, I do see him fighting Beneil Dariush because of the fact that he's the only one that doesn't have a dance partner. Justin Gaichi versus Michael Chandler is already going to happen on this Saturday coming up at Madison Square Garden. I see the winner of that is going to get a title shot, especially if Michael Chandler wins and the winner of Dustin Poirier versus Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier is the winner. I definitely see Michael Chandler as the front runner if Dustin Poirier wins the belt come December. But if Justin Gaichi is able to knock out Michael Chandler, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think Justin Gaethje is going to get the next title shot, and Islam Makhachev is going to have to wait around, unfortunately. But that's just how the cookie crumbles. And then lastly, guys, all right, my favorite fighter, the one that I've been craving about and I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time, and I was very happy to see him return back into the octagon, Khamzat Chimaev. Yes, he made his debut. He made his debut in front of fans. He made his return since last September when he ended up knocking out Gerald Meerschaert inside of a round, okay? But it wasn't that he just knocked him inside of a round. Gerald Meerschaert wasn't able to even touch him, and then in his previous fight before Gerald Meerschaert, he faced Reese McKee, which Reese McKee was not able to even hit him as well. So those are two fighters that have been shut out when it comes to punches against Khamzat Chimaev. So Khamzat Chimaev is facing his biggest test in his UFC career, and he is facing the Leech, Jing Lian. And there was a lot of speculations, if he made weight or if he didn't make weight. He ended up making weight. He ended up making weight at 171, okay? And the Leech, in his previous fight, he fought also on Fight Island. He knocked out Santiago Ponzinibbio, who is a tough SOB, and that's something that we had right in front of us against Lee versus Khamzat Chimaev. Now, Khamzat Chimaev coming into the round one, first thing he does, he puts Jing Lian in a body lock, picks him up, all right, and then picks him up and forces Jing Lian right in front of Dana White. And Khamzat Chimaev is talking all the smack in the world, all right, screaming at Dana White to get off his phone, to look at him, pay attention to his fights, because he is going to make an example out of Jing Lian as for why Khamzat Chimaev should be getting, a title shot. And he was just starching, he was mauling at Khamzat. And there was a picture, all right, of Dana White smiling, being proud of how Khamzat Chimaev is, one, healthy, but also the performance that he is doing, and then the crowd reception that was getting from the Etihad Center in Abu Dhabi, in Yas Island, all right, where they saw Khamzat just mauling at him. And it came to the point where Khamzat just was able to just wrap his arms around, go for the rear naked chokehold, put the body triangle in, and just put Jing Lian to sleep. And thankfully, Jason Herzog saw that Jing Lian was out cold, just because I don't think Khamzat would have realized himself, and he just would have held on to that chokehold. But yeah, so Khamzat Chimaev wins, doesn't get touched at all, has been hit once in his UFC career, just once, and he has outstruck his opponents by an enormous amount of punches. So what's next for Khamzat? I had said it right there. I think the fight to make is him versus Gilbert Burns, or him versus Vicente Luque. I think those are the only two people at welterweight that high in the rankings that don't care, that they will actually take the fight, and they know that they are able to beat Khamzat Chimaev, that they will get next in line for a title shot against Kamaru Usman or Colby Covington if he does happen to beat Usman come November 6th. So yeah, guys, Khamzat Chimaev stole the show, okay? Glover Teixeira becomes the oldest champion in the UFC to become a first-time champion. We have Islam Makhachev making noise as for why he should be, in contention for a title. Petr Yan may simply just be the best bantamweight in the world, all right? And there's just nothing that anybody at 135 at this very moment can do about it. I personally think maybe Merab can possibly challenge him, but I could see that fight happening maybe next year. And we have Khamzat Chimaev, who's just one of the coldest, one of the best, stars that we could have in this sport right now, and he's ready to make some noise. But yeah, guys, that is the recap for UFC 267. This week coming up, we're going to have UFC 268 at Madison Square Garden. I'm probably going to be at the press conference, all right? I'm going to try to get some tickets. Until then, guys, I am Flavio Rihanna. Thank you for tuning in to this channel, all right? And please hit the like and subscribe button, guys, and I will see you guys next time. Peace, guys, and have a good one. And enjoy UFC 268. See ya, guys.